We can learn a boatload about investing from the world's first publicly traded company. A very efficient way to build wealth is to start, build, and own a successful business. And if that's your calling, you should absolutely go all in and do it. But if that's not the way you're headed, and you still want to transcend your 9 to 5 and level up your wealth to free your family from debt and lack, there's another way. You can buy shares in already proven and successful businesses and then turn around and sell them later at a profit. This investment method has been making generational fortunes for at least 500 years. To best understand it, we need to go back in time and take a close look at the first company that sold its shares to the public. Why? Because history matters. This video is part of the Late Bloomers Money series, crafted specifically for Generation X investors and others who want to start with the basics and level up their ability to create a generational wealth legacy for themselves and their families. Please like and subscribe so that you can be notified of all new releases and free financial products and calculators. At the dawn of the 17th century, there was a huge demand in Northern Europe for goods like silk, spice, and tea from Southeast Asia. The problem? Well, it's 7,000 miles from here to here. And the road in between was all mountains, deserts, rivers, and unsavory characters. The cost to move goods across the continent was sky high. The good news for late Renaissance merchants and consumers of Asian goods is that sailing ships were getting pretty good at making it around the tips of Africa and South America to and from the other side of the globe. This was still very expensive, and these voyages had to be financed by aristocratic investors, often kings and queens. It could take the better part of a year, and the risks were, well, let's just say that these cargo runs were not for the faint of heart or conservative investors. But when a fully loaded ship made it back to its European port,
and there was much rejoicing,
the profits could easily make a family's fortune, sometimes for generations. This was a major source of what came to be known as old money. In 1602, a bunch of experienced shipping groups in the Netherlands banded together to form the Dutch East India Company. By joining forces, they would have enough ships and diversification of cargo that if one or two didn't make it, there would still be plenty of profit to go around from those that did. They could take advantage of economies of scale and employ military escorts to fight off pirates and talented diplomats to negotiate pricing with the local merchants. And so, the Dutch East India Company, or VOC as was the Dutch acronym, became the first corporate conglomerate. They had the bright idea of allowing anyone to invest in shares with no minimum investment. Within 4 years, the shares first offered in their IPO, or initial public offering, had already increased 200% in value. From there, they would go on to become an invincible monopoly for almost 200 years, paying out dividends of 40% or more every year for decades on end. They also had what was thought to be the first professionally designed logo, which I must say looks kind of cool. I thought about getting it on a t-shirt, but then that would probably result in my being accused of supporting some obscure death metal band. And then I realized how politically incorrect it is to even be talking about these guys in the 21st century. After all, they were incorrigible slave traders and colonizers, had very little respect for the environment, and tended to deal harshly with those who didn't agree to their terms.
Justice will be dispensed by cannonade and cutlass and all manner of remorseless pieces of metal.
They would not have made the Forbes list of best companies to work for. But as a business, they killed it for those 2 centuries. It's estimated that they moved 2.5 million tons of goods on over 5,000 different voyages. The VOC failed eventually for the same reason that wildly successful ventures fail and continue to fail today. Greed, corruption, shady accounting practices, nepotism, smuggling, flat-out embezzlement, and simply being too big to fail. So why does the rise and fall of the Dutch East India Company matter to you and me today? With apologies to those watching who might be past this point in their knowledge, I've made a commitment to my late bloomers, to those who feel anxious or overwhelmed even hearing the word investing, to start at the very beginning. The sad story of the VOC demonstrates the cycles of value exchange and profit and loss. The brilliant capitalist idea of allowing anyone to invest in companies endures to this day, and it's easier than ever with the internet. Don't let investing on the internet scare you off. As you'll come to see in future videos, it's quite easy. And there are some things that really haven't changed since 1602. Businesses exist to solve problems. In the case of the Europeans of 500 years ago, they wanted that stuff that was 7,000 miles away. The problems businesses take on are big and not easy to solve. Otherwise, they wouldn't be problems, right? They require an enormous amount of capital to get up and running. Investments in things like ships, airplanes, trains, trucks, factory equipment, raw materials, and skilled workers. Lots of upfront costs. And entrepreneurs are often very rich in ideas, but very poor in cash. They can get the funds they need from individuals or pools of angel investors if they can convince them that the idea will work, that the risks will be worth it, and there'll be plenty of profits to go around. Some companies, as they grow, need additional capital, and they can prepare for an initial public offering. In the United States, this process is heavily regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission to protect investors and ensure that companies are at least viable and meeting certain performance benchmarks before they can offer their shares to the public on one of the exchanges. Once shares are issued and the company continues to grow and succeed at solving their defined problems, the shares increase in value and are bought and sold by owners on the exchange. The price fluctuates constantly based on supply and demand, which is influenced by many factors, including the overall economy, interest rates, inflation, changes in technology, popular trends, scandals, the charisma of the CEO, and the political climate. Shares can become worthless when a company collapses from within, like the Dutch East India Company or Lehman Brothers. Or the company fails when it does not respond quickly enough to competition, or their products become outdated or irrelevant. These risks and many more are always present in stock investing, and smart investors are always aware of them. As an investor, you should not show any more loyalty to a sinking ship than most sailors do. Only the captain is required to go down with his ship. And this concludes our little history lesson. I'm keeping these videos short and punchy so we can move forward one step at a time. We'll be getting into more complex topics which will be broken up into chapters that you can easily find times for. In my next video, we'll go over what you need to know about stock prices, the differences between passive and active investing. There are two important little steps you need to take in order to stay on top of the Late Bloomers feed. First, subscribe to this channel. And then go to the description below the video to subscribe to the Late Bloomers email newsletter, which provides text transcriptions of all the videos and will also provide access to free financial calculators. My name is Mike, and I'm committed to continuing this journey with you down the path of prosperity and lasting legacy. Until next time, peace.